Welcome to our exploration into the power of habits. As we journey through this fascinating subject, we embark on a voyage into the intricate workings of our own minds. Habits, those seemingly simple patterns of behavior that we repeat day in and day out, are actually deeply ingrained and complex processes. They are the invisible architects of our lives, subtly shaping our actions, our decisions, and ultimately, our destinies. Let's delve into the science behind these habits. It's an enthralling field of study that weaves together threads from neuroscience, psychology, and behavioral science. At the heart of every habit, there lies a three-part cycle: a cue, a routine, and a reward. The cue triggers the habit. The routine is the action we perform, and the reward is what we gain from it. This cycle creates a neurological loop that, over time, becomes automatic and forms the basis of our habits. Consider how you brush your teeth every morning. The cue might be waking up, the routine is the act of brushing, and the reward is the fresh feeling in your mouth. This simple daily habit is a testament to the power of this neurological loop. Habits, however, are not just individual actions. They ripple out, impacting every aspect of our daily lives. From the way we work to how we interact with others, habits shape our behaviors and attitudes. They can propel us towards success or pull us into a spiral of failure. They can be our greatest allies or our worst enemies. But here's the good news. By understanding the power of habits, by dissecting the cue, routine, reward cycle, we can wield control over them. We're not just passive recipients of our habits, we're the masters. We can learn to start or stop any behavior we desire. We can replace old, unproductive habits with new, empowering ones. And that, my friends, is the true power of habits. So, let's continue our journey and delve deeper into the fascinating world of habits. Stay tuned for the next scene where we'll explore the neurological basis of habits. Until then, remember, your habits shape your life, but you shape your habits. Now let's dive into the neurological basis of habit formation. Habits, whether good or bad, have a deep-seated connection with our brain. They start as conscious decisions, but over time become automatic responses. This transformation is fascinating, and it all happens in a part of our brain called the basal ganglia. Imagine the basal ganglia as a super-efficient autopilot system. When you perform an action repeatedly, the basal ganglia starts recognizing the pattern. It then takes over from your conscious mind and executes the routine automatically. This automation is what we refer to as a habit. Now let's break down this process. It all starts with a cue or trigger. This could be anything: a time of the day, a location, an emotional state, or again, even a sequence of thoughts. The cue signals the brain to go into autopilot and execute the routine. Next comes the routine itself. This is the action or behavior that you perform in response to the cue. It could be anything from brushing your teeth after waking up to reaching for a chocolate bar when you're stressed. Finally, there's the reward. This is the positive feedback that reinforces the habit loop. It tells your brain, hey, this feels good, let's do it again. The reward could be the fresh feeling after brushing your teeth, or again, the temporary relief from stress after eating chocolate. Over time, this cue routine reward loop becomes so ingrained that we start performing the routine automatically, without conscious thought. This is how habits are formed and maintained. But here's the fascinating part. Our brain doesn't differentiate between good and bad habits. It's all about efficiency. The brain loves habits because they save mental effort. This is why breaking an old habit or forming a new one can be quite a challenge. So, our brain plays a crucial role in forming and maintaining our habits. But what if we want to break an unhealthy habit, you might ask? Well, it's not as daunting as it might seem. Our brains are wired to form habits, but with a little knowledge and determination, we can rewire them too. Let's start by understanding the pattern. Every habit, unhealthy or not, has three core components: a cue, a routine, and a reward. The cue triggers the habit, the routine is the behavior itself, and the reward is what our brain gets out of it. To break an unhealthy habit, we need to disrupt this cycle. The first step is identifying the cue. This could be anything from a specific time of day, a certain place, a particular emotion, or again, even a group of people. It's the trigger that sets off the routine. For instance, feeling stressed might trigger the habit of overeating. Once we identify the cue, we can start to control it. Next, we need to substitute the unhealthy routine with a healthier alternative. It's not enough to just stop the routine. We need to replace it with something else. So, if stress is the cue, instead of overeating, we might decide to go for a walk, meditate, Oregon. Listen to some calming music. The key here is to choose an alternative that provides a similar reward. In this case, the reward is stress relief. Finally, we need to ensure that the reward is satisfying. This is crucial because the reward is what makes the habit stick. So, if the healthy alternative doesn't provide a satisfying reward, it's going to be hard to make the new behavior a habit. We might need to experiment with different alternatives until we find one that hits the spot. Remember, breaking unhealthy habits doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, patience, and a lot of trial and error. But with each small victory, our brain learns that the new behavior is worth repeating, and slowly but surely, the unhealthy habit begins to fade away. Breaking unhealthy habits is possible with the right approach. So don't be disheartened if you stumble along the way. Each stumble is a learning opportunity, a stepping stone towards a healthier, happier you. Let's look at some real-life examples of habit formation and change. Consider the story of Lisa Allen, as shared in Charles Duhigg's The Power of Habit. Lisa was a chronic smoker, in deep debt and overweight. She made a decision to trek the Egyptian desert, and to prepare for this, she had to quit smoking. This was her cue. The routine was the preparation for the trek, and the reward was the successful completion of her journey. This single change sparked a chain reaction of positive habits. Today, Lisa is a non-smoker, she's out of debt, and she's fit. She harnessed the power of habits to turn her life around. Then there's the example of Alcoholics Anonymous, a well-known group that helps people overcome alcohol addiction. They rely heavily on the power of habits. The cue is the desire to drink. The routine is attending group meetings, sharing stories, and seeking support. The reward is sobriety. This habit loop has helped millions of people around the world overcome their alcohol addiction. And let's not forget the famous example of Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps. His coach, Bob Bowman, helped Phelps build a series of habits into his daily routine. The cue was waking up. The routine consisted of a series of exercises, stretches, and practices. And the reward was the satisfaction of a good training session. These habits helped Phelps become the most decorated Olympian of all time. These real-life examples and research studies show us that habits aren't just about brushing our teeth or making our bed. They have the power to transform our lives. Whether it's quitting a damaging habit like smoking or building a beneficial one. Like exercising daily, the power of habits can be harnessed to create profound changes. It's important to remember that while these examples are inspiring, change doesn't happen overnight. It requires patience, consistency, and a strong understanding of how habits work. But as these stories illustrate, once the power of habits is understood and harnessed, it can lead to incredible personal growth and success. These stories show us that change is not only possible but achievable with the power of habits. So, how can we harness the power of habits? Well, it's not as daunting as it might seem. The key lies in understanding the three components that make up a habit: the cue, the routine, and the reward. These are the building blocks of every habit, and each plays a crucial role in shaping our behavior. Let's start with the cue. A cue is a trigger that initiates a habit. It could be anything from a time of day to a particular location, organ, even an emotional state. The trick is to recognize these cues and use them to our advantage. For instance, if you want to start a habit of running in the morning, you might use the sound of your alarm as a cue. Next up, we have the routine. This is the actual behavior that we perform in response to the cue. In our running example, the routine would be lacing up your sneakers and hitting the pavement. It's important to make the routine as specific and consistent as possible. The more specific the routine, the easier it will be for your brain to make it a habit. Finally, we come to the reward. This is what reinforces the habit, making you want to repeat the routine in the future. The reward could be anything that makes you feel good. The endorphin rush after a run, the satisfaction of completing a task, or again, even a small treat. But harnessing the power of habits isn't just about creating new ones. It's also about replacing unhealthy habits with healthier alternatives. And the good news is, you don't have to change the entire habit loop to do this. You just need to identify the cue and the reward, then substitute the routine with a healthier behavior that delivers the same reward. By understanding these components and how they interact, we can start to shape our habits to serve us rather than hinder us. We can replace mindless scrolling on our phones with reading a book, swap fast food for home-cooked meals, organ trade in our snooze button for a morning jog. With the right understanding and approach, we can turn our habits into a powerful tool for personal growth. In conclusion, habits hold great power over our lives. They are the invisible architects of our everyday existence, subtly influencing our actions, thoughts, and decisions. Throughout our exploration, we've learned that the foundation of habits lies in our neurology. The cycle of cues, routines, and rewards is a potent force, driving us to repeat behaviors, both beneficial and detrimental. Our brains are wired to seek out these patterns, to crave the comfort of familiar routines, and to relish the satisfaction of rewards. We've also delved into the challenging yet critical task of breaking unhealthy habits. We've seen how identifying triggers and replacing harmful responses with healthier alternatives is key. Whether it's combating a nicotine addiction or curbing a habit of late-night snacking, the process remains the same. Understand the cue, change the routine, and the reward will follow. We've looked at real-life examples that illustrate the power of habits. From the daily routines of successful entrepreneurs to the transformational journeys of individuals overcoming adversity, these stories have shown us that habits can indeed be harnessed for positive change. And finally, we've discussed how to harness the power of habits for personal growth. By consciously cultivating beneficial habits and eliminating detrimental ones, we can significantly improve our lives. This is not an overnight transformation, but a gradual process of change, driven by self-awareness, determination, and persistence. So let's remember, habits are not our masters. Instead, they are tools that we can control and shape to our advantage. By understanding and harnessing the power of habits, we can transform our lives for the better.